I want to double check that.
I'll post on Twitter. Well,
Yeah, let me see if it pops up. Yeah, it's not showing up yet.
It popped up on YouTube for me. I just
It
got a
did?
notification. Yeah.
I haven't gotten anything. I don't know why.
Are you gonna edit this like later?
Not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if
Alright.
you're gonna put like gameplay footage or something over it like later.
Nah, it's gonna be a pure live like this. Yeah, I see it on YouTube. Twitch is not going. It's not appearing though for some reason. Oh, here it is. It is on Twitch. Sweet. Let's do this. Alrighty. What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Random Encounter Podcast, episode 10. It's our first time doing it live. I'm your host, James, and I'm joined by Mike. And back again is our special guest, FanXY.
How's it going?
So we do got a special podcast for you today because it's been pretty light with gaming news. And, you know, after last week, it's expected since we had Tokyo Game Show, Nintendo Direct, and the Sony State of Play and all that other stuff. Today's topic is going to be around retro gaming. We're going to talk about basically our retro gaming memories, all the things that we've been through, like to our first, consoles that we've had, the first games we played, our most memorable games, the games that stick with us all the time, as well as our favorite consoles of those generations. Like always, be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube, and don't forget to check us out on Twitch. And if you are on Twitch, go ahead and hit that follow. We are trying to hit 50 followers on Twitch and 100 subscribers on YouTube. We're so close to that with 89 subscribers on YouTube and of course 30 followers on Twitch. So that would really appreciate. We would really appreciate that if you do that. And also, don't forget we are doing solo videos. We'll have those throughout the week. So be sure to check that out. I just dropped a My Thoughts video on Dragon Quest Builders 2. I really enjoy Dragon Quest Builders 2, and Dragon Quest as a whole is actually something special to me, which I will do a video on why it's special to me in the future. I just need to go through my moving first before I do that. But without further ado, let's get into this. Let's start off with what we're playing. Mike, what you been playing?
Me, as everyone knows, I've been playing God of War. I'm streaming the whole game right now. And other than that, just Destiny and God of War. That's it. I'm going to try to beat God of War, and then after God of War, I'm probably going to start Cyberpunk again.
Nice. What about you, Viet?
Right now I have been going deep into my Steam Deck. I've gone pretty hard into the emulation deck on it. The only thing I haven't been able to figure out is getting the arcade side of it working. None of the arcade ROMs work. I've been trying to get MAME working. I was trying to play some of the arcade games, but other than that, I've been jumping into some old NES games and GBA and Game Boy Color games on my Steam Deck.
Yeah, what games? I'm curious.
So on the NES, I'm jumping back into Final Fantasy 3. On the Game Boy Color, I want to start Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Ages. And Oracle of Seasons.
So good.
That's a
So
nice one. Yeah.
I haven't played those yet before, so I'm trying to jump into that one. And then I did just get the Sega Genesis ROM working on the Steam Deck, so I was gonna try and run the Shining Force series on that.
Nice.
Oh,
I tried playing Shining Force on the Sega Genesis Nintendo Online thing, and it's all right. I don't know. It doesn't catch my attention that much. I think I need to get further into it. Like I always get to the intro and then I stopped. I also tried it on mobile because that it's free with ads. So I tried that and it's the same thing. Like I start and I just drop off. But I really want to try it out. And I know there was a new mobile Shining Force game, but I heard that might have gotten canceled, even though they seem to have showed it off. Looked really good, but it is what it is. I mean, it would have been a gotcha game anyways, but yeah. Is what it is.
Like every other phone game.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, what's up? K177. That's what. Appreciate you joining in on the podcast. But But yeah, going on with that, like what I've been playing. So I've been playing a couple things as well. The main game I've been playing right now is actually Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, and that's mainly because they did go ahead and do that DLC announcement. So I was like, you know what, let me go through it. So I've been playing that. I actually started doing the DLC first. So I was doing the Power Awakens DLC, where basically you go to Beerus' planet, and you go ahead and you kind of level up. You unlock like Kaioken and then Super Saiyan and so forth. So I kind of over leveled to like 35, and then I went back to the story. I'm fighting Raditz, and literally like one hit, he was dead, and I was already in the cutscene showing him die. It's like, oh man, like, you know. So I beat that like first boss like right away, and I was like, all right, let me go ahead with the story because I'm a little bit too overpowered. Like I'll probably be able to one shot Vegeta when I get to fight him. But the other game I've been playing is actually The Messenger, and I really like The Messenger, and part of the reason I'm playing is because Sea of Stars is a game by the same developers, and they have that coming out next year, and that's supposed to be a prequel.
The game looks so good.
Yes, it's supposed to be a prequel to The Messenger, and I wanted to see if there's any type of callbacks before I played that. What were you gonna say, Mike?
No, but what's The Messenger on?
The Messenger. What am I playing it on?
Yeah.
I was playing it on Steam Deck because it was on sale for $8. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh, I didn't know there was a prequel to Sea of Stars. I seen the graphics for Sea of Stars and it caught my attention.
Well,
there's
no prequel. The Messenger is the sequel technically. So The Messenger is actually the base game. Sea of Stars is actually the prequel to The Messenger. So it takes place in the same universe, which is interesting. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna have to check that out because I'm definitely gonna play Sea of Stars for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you played The Messenger at all?
No, dude.
Oh man, you're missing out. What about you, fan? Have you played it?
No. I mean, I've seen it on sale on Steam. It's another one of those Metroidvania games, right? Kinda.
Yeah,
like,
and no. I mean,
kind of like Ninja Gaiden. Is it?
It's like Ninja Gaiden. Like, there's some spoilers, so I can't get into it.
And Sea of Stars is a prequel to this.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's a totally different gameplay. Yeah. But yeah,
okay.
So I was watching like the developer like commentary. Like they usually go live on YouTube and show like where they're at with the game, which is pretty cool. And like one of the first ones was that exactly. They were saying that it's a prequel to The Messenger. It takes place in the same universe, but they just kind of left it at that. So I assume we'll learn something. But The Messenger itself is an amazing game. It's very Ninja Gaiden like, but
is it hard?
It's not as hard as Ninja Gaiden. I want to say it's super difficult.
Brutal.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not super difficult. There is some challenge, but it's not like super difficult. If that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's not like OD difficult to where it's like a Souls game or something. Or like Hollow Knight.
Yeah, Ninja Gaiden is like the original Souls game.
Yeah, exactly. Like Ninja Gaiden is a lot harder, especially if you go back to playing Ninja Gaiden right now. Like it's a lot harder. The Messenger is nowhere near as hard. So I highly.
I'm watching that video right now.
Oh, Messenger's only $8 right now.
Yeah, it's on sale. I'm telling you, get it.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it after this.
It's worth it, but
it's Devolver Digital too. Okay.
Yeah. Well, they're the one that published it, but it's Saber or no, not Saber Interactive. They're I forgot their name.
Sabotage.
Yeah, Sabotage. That's what it is. Yeah, they're the developers of it. But yeah, it's an amazing game. I first played it on Game Pass on the Xbox, and I loved it. Got through like halfway through the game, and then I kind of dropped off. I forgot what came out at that time, so I had dropped off. Resident Evil Village came out, so I dropped off. And then by the time I wanted to come back, it was gone from Game Pass. So I was like, you know what, I really want to play it. They added it to PlayStation Plus Premium, but I don't really use that. And I really wanted to get it on my Switch, but then I saw it was on sale on the Steam Deck. I was like, you know what, I'm going to play it there. But yeah, I love the game. It's amazing. You get like little power-ups. You go through levels. And I'm going to leave it at that because they're spoilers, because the game changes up like in the halfway point. It changes up like drastically. It's just some cool elements.
Yeah, don't say nothing because I'm going to cop it.
Yeah, so I highly recommend it. For everybody also watching the podcast, I highly recommend The Messenger. Amazing game. I can't believe I didn't play it when it first came out. I'm sad. But shout out to those developers because they're in theme with what we're going to talk about, which is retro gaming, right? And that's kind of one of the games that pushes me back to like those older games. Like we're talking about Ninja Gaiden. There's still such a love and nostalgia for retro games that I feel like there's not enough of it, right? Like a lot of the newer games are good, they're fun. I love God of War. Dark Souls and things like that. But it's like there's something that calls me back to these retro games. So before we go into that, what was everybody's first console? Let's start with you, Mike. What was your first console that you had?
I had it was an NES. It was my first console.
Okay.
NES, dude. Like that was like that's what I initially started playing on. That's what I grew up with, and then eventually it was got a Sega and a Game Boy. That was like pretty much like the Triforce right there for me. Growing up. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those are the three things I like grew up. And when I say Game Boy, I'm talking like original Game Boy.
OG,
like,
yeah.
Oh, the
yeah,
one that takes like the AA batteries.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I got those relatively like within like a year or two of like each other. Like so, yeah, like those three were like pretty much what got me into gaming: the NES, the Sega Genesis, and the original Game Boy.
What about you, fam? What was your first console?
So the first console that I owned was a Super Nintendo, but the first console I ever played was a Nintendo, an NES, mainly
Nice.
because my like growing up we had an uncle that lived with us and it was his, so that's what I played with. I played with his NES, but yeah,
Nice.
like since then I've been Nintendo pretty much like growing up the entire time. I never got into the handhelds just because never could afford it, as a kid. And
Yeah.
well, it's one of those things your parents don't buy for you. For me, anyway, growing up, it was one of those where you gotta pay for it yourself. So
Yeah.
I got lucky because my brother's 8 years older than me.
oh,
So he was the one begging my parents like to get all this stuff. You know what I mean? And I just kind of benefited from it. Like,
Nah, I hear that. Yeah. Yeah, for me, I mean, like, just to let you know, my memory's bad. Like, I forgot a lot of stuff. So, like, the order of operations in my head are, like, totally out of whack.
I get it, bro.
Because it's years ago, man. I'm over 30 years old, so it's years ago. But I believe the first console I had was the SNES. And, like, because my first gaming memory is of me playing the SNES with Super Mario World. So I believe that's the first console I played with. But, that's definitely my first memory.
That was your first game? In
Yeah.
Mario?
Yeah.
Like, first game ever?
Yeah,
Okay.
Super Mario World that I remember, right? And I have a nice memory of me sitting on the bed. It was Christmas time, and I just went in and I put in Super Mario World and started playing it because that was the only game I had at the time, and fell in love with the game right away, and I played it with my dad. But I was also jealous because like my cousin had a Sega Genesis and I really liked Sonic. I was like, oh man, like Sonic's so cool, like this dude goes so fast and things like that, and I never had a Sega Genesis. But when I look back at that, I think my parents made the right decision because definitely the library and the lineup of the SNES were like, they had it
Way
was
better.
like, yeah, exactly. It was
Yeah,
like
way better.
a
dude.
killer lineup. Man, amazing games, and like till this day, like a lot of those games still hold up. Where some of the Sega Genesis games hold up, like Streets of Rage, I can still play that, over and over again. But I wouldn't say the same about the whole library. But yeah,
Well, on Genesis, I feel
Yeah.
like I can pretty much go back to like any SNES or like Genesis game and play it. Like I feel like they hold up pretty well. Like
See-
I feel like games start
Yeah.
like not holding up when you get to 3D graphics.
yeah. I mean, I don't know, like Beyond Oasis to me doesn't hold up. Like it might be the game itself, but I just get bored of that.
I've never
Okay.
played Beyond Oasis, and
never
I plan
played
to because I got a ROM. So,
There you go.
it's a Zelda clone. I mean, it's on. I believe it's on Nintendo Online too, so you can always play it there. But it's a Zelda clone, and it's all right. It's just not Zelda,
Right.
And,
Right.
and
It's
I mean,
hard. You can't imitate it, dude. Zelda, so
Yeah.
you can't copy it, dude.
and that's one of the many issues with Zelda is that it's hard to imitate. Like there's just something about Zelda that's good. I don't know if it's like witchcraft built into the game or something that makes you hypnotize or what, but like there's something about Zelda that's really good. But yeah, that's my first gaming memory of a console that I had.
Yeah.
And I know I did
What
get
was
the
your-
Game Boy later on. What's up?
Well, no, I was gonna ask you. Yeah, what was your first game? Not console.
so the first game that I can remember playing was, it was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game. I think it was on the NES because the one stage I remember was the sewer and underwater stage where it had like all these like electric
Oh, what?
eels going around. that you would like you touch and you die.
Right.
It was one of
I
those.
I think I remember that. Yeah.
So really quick in the Twitch chat, Mirage Leonardo 84 said that next year we're getting an Onimusha anime series and a Nier Automata anime series. That is dope.
Oh yeah, I seen that earlier.
I did
yeah.
not see that.
They have visuals for him too. It looks pretty good. Like there's no trailer, I don't think yet, but there's some visuals
Oh
floating
man,
around.
I bet you it's Netflix. Netflix is
It's
like
Netflix. Yeah.
probably. Well, yeah, they're going crazy with video game adaptations. So it probably is Netflix.
There's a bunch. There's the new Rurouni Kenshin series coming out, which is like
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
controversial online.
Yeah.
Like it's literally like super love or super hate on that.
Yeah.
So.
But no, that is dope. Like, I'll be definitely interested in that. I still gotta watch the Tekken anime series.
Yeah,
it wasn't bad. It was actually pretty good.
Yo, cyberpunk anime, super good.
Everybody keeps telling me that. I
Like,
just haven't gotten around to it. Like, I might watch
It-
Tekken first and then go to
it'll get you
Cyberpunk.
hooked. Cyberpunk's like I heard it's better than Tekken. I haven't
Yeah.
seen Tekken, but like
Yeah, the second one was pretty good.
And he goes in and says, hypothetically speaking, if Square Enix did a remaster of Chrono Trigger and Octopath Traveler graphics
absolutely,
engine,
bro.
would you buy it?
I
Yes.
would,
Day
I would
one.
pay double the price.
Day one.
I would pay double the price of MSRP. to
I
buy
would
that.
if they did a collector's edition and everything. Definitely. I mean, Chrono Trigger. You know, it's a game we're gonna get to in a moment. Like it's an amazing game. Like it holds up to today. It's one of the many SNES games that hold up to today, which falls in with Sea of Stars. You know, Sea of Stars is imitating that Chrono Trigger feel, and I love it for that. It's like, hey, we need more of that. That's what I'm saying. Like we need a lot more of that. But yeah, like what was your first game, Mike?
Mega Man 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was my first game. So I grew up playing super hard games, like right from the rip, dude.
Yeah.
Like so, and then it was Super Mario Bros. 3. Like those were like my two earliest gaming memories. Like
Yeah.
I don't know which one.
I
was
remember playing Mega Man 6. I don't remember beating like more than 2 bosses.
So I didn't play.
I beat it. I beat all of it, dude. I owned it. It was mine, dude. Like I
So-
made it say "daddy" at the end.
So my first time playing Mega Man actually was Mega Man 7 on SNES. So that was my first Mega Man game, and I loved it. Like I know a lot of people don't think good of like Mega Man 7. Like you know, it's usually always Mega Man 1, 2, and 3 that are in people's minds, and then all the other Mega Mans like people don't care about. But Mega Man 7 is like special to me because that was my first Mega Man game, and I love. Actually, let me backtrack that. That was not my first Mega Man game. First Mega Man game was actually Mega Man X. My cousin had it, and I was like playing this. It's like, and the first thing that got me hooked was the music, and like that first opening stage, and you know you go through like all the music in Mega Man X was amazing. I was like, you know what, this series is amazing. I gotta play more of it. So I wanted something different though because I already had played Mega Man X. So I went and rented Mega Man 7 from Blockbuster, and yeah, and I enjoyed it. You know, ever since then I really enjoyed it. Didn't get to finish it. I remember I got super upset because my mom's friends were over while I was playing, and I had my SNES on top of my TV. And what
Right.
happened is while I'm playing, you know, the kids go and run over and they drop my SNES and they damage my second port in my SNES. Dude, I was furious. I went and grabbed the kids. I threw them against the
Them
wall.
fighting words, bro.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
I grabbed them. You know, I say kids, you know, because I was like 8 or something at the time too, so I was just a kid too. But I grabbed the kid and threw him against the wall. And my mom came in and was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "This kid just broke my SNES. Now I can't play 2-player games, man. I can't finish Donkey Kong Country no more with my brother or any of that." Like,
Right.
dude, I was so upset at that, man. But yeah, that was
That's
my
worth it.
first, like, I could say those were my first Mega Man games, to say. But
So
yeah.
what was the console that you never had that you wish you had?
Mm.
Ooh.
Like not like, you know, so retro is
Yeah.
now I guess up to the 360. So what was the console that you were never able to get because you were a kid but you always wanted?
The Genesis. It has to be the Genesis.
Genesis.
Yeah, because that's really the only. Because growing up, I had every console, right? You know, and it's one of those things like outside of that era, like I didn't have a Genesis. I had a TurboGrafx 16, which
Right.
nobody knew about that, but I love my TurboGrafx 16, which I do want to get on that topic later on. But yeah, it had to be the Genesis because I loved Sonic. My friend had it, my cousins had it, and I was just a kid that didn't have it, you know, and that's not a bad thing, right? Like, I played Zelda: Link to the Past for days, and I don't regret it at all. But I always wish I can play Sonic the Hedgehog. I never really got to really play it like on my own system until like the 360 era with like Xbox Live Arcade and stuff like that.
What about you, Viet?
I would say Genesis because I never owned one. But I probably would have said Game Boy, to be honest, because I never had a Game Boy.
Game Boy.
Like, I never owned any of the Nintendo handhelds.
That's crazy.
Dude.
Any of them.
Like, you're missing out on so many
I know.
games.
Yeah.
I know. So, like, if I had a Game Boy growing up, that would have been, like, the one great thing. It would have been nice. I mean, I only recently just got a Nintendo DS and 3DS just so I can start playing some of those games I missed out on.
You got them too late because now all the games are expensive, dude. Like...
Yeah. Physical games.
Physical games are expensive.
Are too expensive.
Right?
Physical games are too expensive.
Yeah.
So
no, I never had a
Mirage,
Super Nintendo. Actually, I've never
Mirage
even
says his
like,
first original
one.
was Super Mario Brothers 4 RPG.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
Super Mario
remember that
RPG
game.
was. So I never played that. I always heard a lot of good things about Super
It's a
Mario
good.
RPG.
It was a very good take on RPG for Mario. It was very fun.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, and I've never seen it. And real quick, I'm fixing up the stream so you can actually see the viewer count in the top left corner too. As I go, I'm trying to add stuff. Like I didn't add any alert boxes, so I don't know if anybody follows or subscribe us. I'm sorry if you did and we didn't shout you out, but we do appreciate the support if you have. Yeah, I didn't have the alert box in the podcast because we usually do the pre-recorded podcast, but now we're doing it live, so I have to add more stuff as we're doing the stream.
It'll get better over time.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get better over time as we do this. That's one thing. If you ever look at our videos, our previous videos on YouTube, on both YouTube and even Twitch, as we go along, every episode is a big leap in, technology for us, right? We get better cameras, better microphones, and we try to add better stuff, like the random encounter banner. I added that. I'm trying to change that up so it's not just a black border, see if we can add more stuff to that. But yeah, we appreciate everybody joining us. Definitely, we appreciate that support. But moving along, yeah, Super Mario RPG. In that series, the first game that I played was actually Paper Mario, which is basically, it's similar but not the same. But yeah, that was my first Mario RPG there.
I wish I would make a good one, like a turn-based one, instead of like the last, I think, like 2 that were like action adventure ish.
Yeah, Paper Mario. What was the latest one? Shoot, I have it too. The Origami King was not that bad. It's just there's no like leveling up system, and I think
The
that's the
mechanics is
issue.
weird.
Yeah,
I played it. I didn't like it, so.
Yeah, it was all right. Like I didn't finish it. I enjoyed like music. Like Nintendo has killer music in their games, so like that kind of kept me pushing through. But I finally fell off after the third ribbon or whatever they're called, like the third thing that you have to get.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have GameFly, so I've played for like 20 minutes. I'm like, I'm setting this back.
But yeah, so have any of you guys owned the TurboGrafx 16?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Oh man.
I had a friend who had an Atari. That's about as old as
That's
I.
it. So look it up. TurboGrafx 16 is an amazing machine. So they came in 2 pieces of hardware. In Japan, it's known as the PC Engine. So you might notice like a lot of people with shirts that say PC Engine or they say PC Engine. That's what it was known as in Japan. But over here, it's known as the TurboGrafx 16. And basically,
I feel like that's terrible marketing.
Yeah, it's just it was supposed to be higher, like better graphics overall. It was still 16-bit. But better graphics and better sound engine as well, so you get better sound quality and so forth. Castlevania Rondo of Blood, which is with Richter. If you compare that to Castlevania, I forgot what it's called, something Blood X, Dracula Blood X, I think it is, which is the SNES version. There's a huge difference in sound quality, and not only that. Because the TurboGrafx 16 was so much more powerful, they added in anime cutscenes with voice acting in it too. And this is like, that 16-bit era. So they added all that stuff in there. That's how powerful that console was. But that wasn't the only thing that made the TurboGrafx 16. Yeah. That wasn't the only thing that made the TurboGrafx 16 stand out, right? And that was the home console version. It also had a portable console version called the TurboGrafx Express. With that, it was a handheld that you can go ahead and buy a TV tuner and plug it in, and it'll allow you to watch live TV. And it also utilized the same exact cartridges that you use for the console version on the portable handheld version. So you were able to play the same game on both devices. Dude, it was like, to me, like, when I had that, I always wondered, like, why can't I get the same games in portable mode? Because I would travel a lot with my dad and my mom, and I would bring over my GameCube or my TurboGrafx 16, but a lot of times I wanted to play like A Link to the Past or Super Metroid, but I was like, I can't put these cartridges on handheld, or I'm sorry, on my SNES, on my Game Boy handheld. If I buy the same game, it's not the same, right? Because you remember back then you had like Donkey Kong Country and then there was Donkey Kong Land, but they were not the same game. And that was one thing that they had. I'm trying to remember who. I think it was Hudson that made the TurboGrafx 16. I believe it was them. They went in and it was an amazing console. All the games that were released for them were amazing. But one of my biggest memory of that console was a game called Final Lap Twin. And it is the weirdest concept of a game like ever. So it's a racing game. Think of it kind of like Outrun and stuff like that. It's a racing game. Right?
I'm looking at pictures right now.
Yeah. So it's a racing game, but the crazy thing about the game is there's an RPG mode where you start off as a kid and you want to be a racer, and I believe it's like your dad is like a professional racer, so he gives you his old car so you can go on your journey. Crazy, dude. Yeah, and you go on your journey, and you walk around, and it looks like Pokemon. You get these random encounters, and these random encounters are other people who want to race you. So you go ahead and you race them, and then if you win, you get money, which allows you to upgrade your car. And there was also like these big races you can join, which were like your gyms there.
That seems like a concept that was ahead of its time, dude. That's dope.
Way ahead of its time, and it's something I would play nonstop. Like I would always go back and play it because I was like, man, this game is cool. The downside to it was there was no battery in the cartridges. So like every time you shut it off, you had to restart all over, and that was like the only negative.
Talk about the original roguelike.
Yeah, it kind of sucked, man. Because I remember getting really far, and like the TurboGrafx 16 or the Express took like 9 batteries. Like it was crazy, like 9 AAA batteries, and I ran out of batteries and it died. Crazy, I was like, no, like I had to restart. I was so angry. I was like, why? But yeah, like if you ever get the chance to look into it, they have such an awesome library. They had China Warrior, which is basically just a Bruce Lee game. I would play that game nonstop. They had Keith's Courage, which was another amazing game. You're this kid or a guy named Keith, and basically it's a side scroller. So you fight, you go inside houses. Think of like Zelda 2,
Link's Adventure.
Yeah, Link's Adventure. Yeah. There we go. I was about to say Link's Awakening. I was like, that's not it. Think of it like Zelda 2. It's very similar to that. But once you beat the level, you go into like this alternate dimension, and then you get like this armor over you. It's like Gundam armor. And then now you have all these different moves where you can like boost. You have a stronger sword and all these other things. And that game was amazing. I got to the end and never beat it. But yeah, take a look at all the TurboGrafx 16 stuff. Like it's amazing. It's a console that I feel like nobody talks about. Not a lot of people had it, but it's one of my favorite consoles ever.
Bad.
It was. It failed in the US like big time. But yeah,
like even calling it a TurboGrafx 16 is like that's a mouthful, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because the 16 was because it was 16-bit, and then the TurboGrafx was because of how much more powerful it was versus the other 16-bit consoles that were out at that time. But yeah, like a lot of people still swear that Rondo of Blood is the better Castlevania game, and it is. Like I played it on PlayStation. They had the dual pack with that and Symphony of the Night, and it's an amazing game. Definitely recommend that also if you haven't played it. But yeah, you can also emulate it on your Steam Deck because there's no other way to play it.
Unless you actually own it.
Yeah.
That's so sad, man. We're losing gaming history.
So after our second podcast, I had mentioned TurboGrafx 16, and my dad had called me up. And he's like, "Hey, I still have the TurboGrafx Express. I was like, when I find it, I'll give it to you so you can have it there." I was like, "Oh man, really? Like I didn't know that. Like I thought the thing was gone forever."
it's probably worth a lot of money right now too, man.
Yeah,
But,
and I wouldn't get rid of it. Like it's an amazing
nah,
machine.
it's a collector item at this point, dude.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, moving on to the next generation of consoles. From there, we had the N64, PlayStation 1, and Sega Saturn.
Wasn't
What-
it Dreamcast?
No, just
Or-
Dreamcast.
no,
Sega
no.
Saturn came
No.
out before
You
No,
Dreamcast.
sure?
Saturn.
I thought
it's
Dreamcast
Saturn.
was after. Oh, no,
Wait,
you are
yeah,
right.
no,
Dreamcast
it's
came out in
Saturn.
99. Yeah, because it came out in 99. So
Dreamcast failed because it was ahead of its time, so I think it came out like when the N64 was still big.
okay, so you are
Like,
right. So it
yeah,
was
yeah.
Dreamcast.
Yeah, Dreamcast was like the successor to the Sega Saturn because I remember playing the Sega Saturn as a kid while the NES was still out.
Yeah. So what consoles did you have in that generation? Let's start with you, Viet.
Oh, I bought the N64 with my own money.
Oh wow.
So, growing up, we have a tradition every year for Chinese New Year's. But it's not really a tradition. It's more like kind of what happens,
Yeah.
where the adults give all the kids red envelopes, and the envelopes all have money in it. So I saved all my New Year's money, and I bought the N64.
Nice. What game did you get with it?
Mario 64.
What else, man?
I mean, eventually I got the I had the gold cartridge, Ocarina of Time.
Oh, nice.
I had GoldenEye. I also had WrestleMania was really big on the N64, so we played a lot of that.
Nice.
Mystic Ninja,
I remember that
Ogre
game.
Battle. It's Gomon. It was another one of those platformer type games. It was called
Yeah.
Gomon Mystic Ninja.
Yeah, I remember that game.
And then what was it? What was that snowboarding game? With
1080?
no, it was like they're little kids, like
Oh,
chibi style little kids.
yeah.
Hmm.
I played the 1080. I didn't play the other
Yeah.
one. Like,
But yeah, and then Star Fox.
oh, of course.
Nice.
Yeah, actually, in that generation, the only one I had a Dreamcast like later on around the time when the PS2 came out.
Yeah.
But at first I didn't get it. My brother at that time, like I said, I was like 10 or something like that at the time. My brother had a job already, so he copped the Nintendo 64,
Nice.
and I just kind of like benefited from it. But like, yeah, that was like a big detrimental like step, like, because like that's what made me fall in love with Zelda, like Ocarina of Time, and or the Zelda series in general, because like I didn't really play Zelda. I didn't have an SNES, so I didn't really play Zelda before that. So Ocarina of Time was my first Zelda game. So that's really what like really launched me into like gaming. And that and Super Mario 64 and like 1080. And there's a game I used to play called Glover. Like,
Yeah, I remember Glover.
Yeah.
Which didn't that come back recently, or they made
Glover.
like an HD remake?
Yeah, it was terrible though. Like, yeah, and it was the Star Fox 64. Pretty much every game that everyone had. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you had an N64, you played Mario, Star Fox, Zelda, all
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. For me, so I had the PlayStation. I had all three consoles, right? Because this was the generation that I finally started getting all the consoles. I don't remember. I think we had the PlayStation first. I don't remember. Yeah, I believe it was a PlayStation first, and I remember waking up because it was around Christmas time again, and I look underneath the door to where my bedroom is, and I'm like, there's a light there. I'm like, what the heck? Like, I look at the clock and it's like midnight. It's like, why is there a light still on at this time? And I hear a lot of noise. So I'll go ahead and open the door, and then, the living room light's on. So I was like, okay, what's going on? And it's my dad and my mom there playing Street Fighter Alpha 2. And they're here just like making loud noises because they're here playing against each other, and like my dad was losing to my mom and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, you're cheating and all this. I was like, what? Like, what is this? And they're like, oh, you're supposed to be sleeping. What are you doing here? I was like, well, you guys were being loud and the light was on, and so I'm trying to see. And then next thing you know, I was like, what the heck is this thing here? And it's just this gray PlayStation right there. And I didn't know what it was because I don't remember how old I was at that time, but it's like, to me, I was like, I have no clue what this is. So I'm like, what is this console here? And like, oh yeah, it's called a new Sony PlayStation. It's supposed to be better than the Super Nintendo. So then I remember, trying it out, and then that was it. Like I got into it, and my dad had like 5 other games. There was a demo disc, Crash Bandicoot. I don't remember what the other games were. It was like some type of like a helicopter game that was, whack. Yeah, there was like a couple bad stuff, but like that was kind of like my introduction there. And I would play the demo disc a lot because they had Metal Gear Solid was in that demo disc. So like they had that, they had some other stuff there, but that was like in that era. That was my first console, and then the 64 came later on, and that actually was purchased for my brother. But they, later on they said it was for both of us. But I remember when he opened it up, I was like, I wanted this because my neighbor had Mario 64 and like Mario Kart, and I remember I was like, I really wanted this game. I was like, why did you get him that? So he got it, and then when he opened up, he's like, oh, we each got you a game. We go to open up the game, and he has Ocarina of Time. I was like, I told you I wanted Zelda. Why did you get him? He doesn't even know how to read. Like I was so upset at that, because my brother had it and I didn't. I was like, oh man, like why? And then I go to open up Mines and it's just Quake 64. I was like, this game is dumb. Like I don't want to play this game. Or no, it wasn't that. It was 007 actually. It was 007. I was like, oh, this game is dumb. I don't want to play this game. And I just went and I was like, whatever. Later on I played Quake 60 or 007 and of course fell in love with it. But I remember I was very upset. It was
like the first FPS, yeah.
Yeah. I was very, very upset at not having Ocarina of Time there, but of course we were able to share it, the 64, so I played it, and man, I beat that game like 1,000 times. I remember because there was no co-op.
Still play to this day, man.
Me too. Me too. I'll never forget because there's no co-op. I will call my buddy and I'll be like, hey, you want to play some Ocarina of Time? He's like, sure. So we'll put the phone to our ears and we're here just playing like this the whole time. We're playing the Ocarina of Time, and we will play together. We'll have speed runs. We'll race each other through the game and stuff like that. And man, amazing game. But yeah, and then later on I got the Dreamcast, but I want to say I had the PS2 already when I got the Dreamcast. I don't remember. But that was my dad. He got it again for Christmas. And it was, I remember he kept talking about, oh, there's this cool game I want to try out. You're like a kid and you're trying to discover like who killed your father and things like that. It was Shenmue. And I was like, and he kept telling me the concept, like, yeah, it's supposed to be like you actually have choices, depending on what you do, the whole game changes the gameplay. And I was like, what? That makes no sense. What do you mean that, how you play the game changes? Like, to me at that time, I couldn't comprehend that. And of course, Christmas comes around, he starts playing it, and then I see what you mean, because you get all these clues. We bought the strategy guide, and through there it's like, oh, if you do this, these bullies will go ahead and attack you. If you don't do this, you won't see the bullies, but later on they're picking on a kid, so you need to choose what you do. If you don't beat up these bullies at this section, they're going to go ahead and beat up this little kid over there, or they're going to mess with this girl or something like that. It was crazy, that game.
It was a shame that they butchered the new one.
Yeah, I still haven't played it.
Yeah, I haven't played it, but I watched like reviews on it and everything. But the Dreamcast is what actually got me into JRPGs with Skies of Arcadia.
Yeah,
that was like I believe Skies of Arcadia was like my first like JRPG. So like that was like Dreamcast is like that whole era is pretty much what made me love what kind of games I love. You know what I mean?
I forgot to mention this.
Kind of missed the Dreamcast.
Last time I didn't get to show my Game Boy Color.
But you got the Atomic Purple.
Got it. Yeah, I do have it, and then I still have Tetris in it. So
I got that Tetris.
Yeah, OG Tetris. So
are you gonna mod the Game Boy Color with the colored IPS screen?
I thought about it, but I'm scared.
They make them now. You can just buy it.
I think I have to open it up because my speaker's not working. So like when we were playing Tetris, like no sound was coming out of it. So I was kind of sad at that. But yeah, I might have to mod it some. But yeah, I want to show this on camera. I do have it, and now it's here with me. But yeah, and actually before we go further, we didn't even talk to the portable console era in that generation of Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and all that stuff. Like I owned a Game Boy, the OG Game Boy. And then my brother, they bought him a Game Boy Pocket for him to use. So I had like, the fat Game Boy, he had a Game Boy Pocket. And then later on I got this Game Gear, but I mainly wanted a Game Gear for a Sonic game. I was like, yes, this is going to be the day I get a Sonic game. And sure enough, My parents did not give me the Sonic game again. They got me
man.
they got me something called was it Shao Kahn of the Neverland or something like that. You're like this dude. You go into like this demon world. You have like 2 katanas, and basically you like kill demons. And I was like, like, this game is whack. Like, you know, I played it because that was the only Game Gear game I had, but like I didn't really like it.
Good.
Yeah, but yeah.
My first game was on the original Game Boy. It was like this Tarzan game. That was like the first game I had. It was literally just called Tarzan. Like, if you look it up, it's just like a weird looking dude on the cover and everything. It was so weird, man.
That's funny. Yeah, mine was the Tetris game there, and my mom would play it a lot. Like, she loved Tetris, and it got to the point where we each would like see who got the highest score. But when I got my Game Boy Color, I got that with Pokemon Blue, and yeah, like that was
I got red.
Yeah, and that was again another Christmas like miracle for me. It's like so I'll never forget this day. I wanted a game so bad, and at that time I don't remember what happened. Something happened to my Game Boy. So I couldn't, I didn't have it no more. And I'll never forget, like, under the Christmas tree, you open up the package and there was the Pokemon Blue. I was like telling my brothers, like, oh, we got Pokemon Blue. And he had Pokemon Red. So I got so excited. And then I was like, after we opened up all the gifts, I was like, there's no Game Boys. Like, what am I going to play this on? You know, and then my parents were like, oh, they didn't get Game Boys? And then he's like, my dad goes to my mom, he's like, I thought that we got Game Boys. Like, oh, well, you're going to have to wait till Monday because the stores are closed because of Christmas. So I was like super upset, like, you know, and I went and opened up the game, started looking through like the manual, like, you know, like you always did back then. And then my brother, yeah, exactly. And my brother goes to the room, and then he goes, I don't know what he does, but all I hear him scream is like, James, we got the Game Boys, they're underneath our pillow. I ran to the room, checked underneath the pillow. Sure enough, there was that last gift there with our Game Boys in it. And yeah, man, that was a wrap. And then I played eventually like Oracle of Ages. I rented it from Blockbuster. A lot of my Game Boy games were rented. The only Game Boy games I really owned were the Pokemon ones.
Oh man, I remember the Mario Superstar Saga too, like the Zelda games, like all those. Man, that was such a good console, dude. The Game Boy Color. Yeah, it was so good, dude.
Yeah, it was. No, I agree. Like Game Boy is, it's still, and that's another console that I feel like a lot of the games you can definitely replay.
That Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color games, like yeah, bro, like those things, like you can go back and they're still like timeless.
Yeah, no, definitely. So
Golden Sun. Oh yeah, bro.
That's
like,
Game Boy Advance. Yeah,
is it Advance?
Amazing. Yeah. So, Via, did you have a Dreamcast at all or no?
I had a Japanese Dreamcast.
Okay. What games did you have on
it? Crazy Taxi.
Yeah.
Phantasy Star.
First online game ever.
Yeah.
Sonic Adventure.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember what else. Power Stone.
Power Stone? Nice. Yeah. What about you, Mike?
On Dreamcast? Man, I remember Crazy Taxi, Skies of Arcadia. Which Skies of Arcadia needs like a sequel or a remake or something, dude. Yeah. Like that's one of the best JRPGs ever made.
Yeah.
And you know, honestly, Grandia. I don't know. Yeah, it was Grandia. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah. Grandia. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. Sonic Adventures, dude. Like, so man, the Dreamcast was awesome too, man. I wish it was successful.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. Like, I had my list of that was. I'm trying to remember. Sonic Adventure 1, Sonic Adventure 2, Shenmue. I had Rainbow.
Shenmue.
I had Rainbow Six. Shenmue's still really good. Rainbow Six. There's something else that I can't remember. Tokyo Extreme Racer. And that's really all I can remember. I rented a lot of games because again, Blockbuster at the time. I remember renting and playing. I think it was called Evolution 2. It's an RP. It was an RPG.
Blockbuster.
Yeah. It was an RPG. You'll hear Blockbuster a lot through today's podcast because it's retro talk. So a lot of my gameplay was done through Blockbuster. But yeah, I had Yeah, Evolution 2, Sonic Shuffle, which was like Mario Kart or Mario Party clone. What else? That's it. Like Skies of Arcadia, I never played. I actually had a demo disc from buying a magazine, and that's
You
how
still
I
haven't played it to this day?
Well, no, I have it on
Okay.
the Steam Deck. I've been playing it that way. But
Okay, I gotcha.
like my way of playing that game at that time was through that demo disc. So you got like 3 different chapters to play through. There was like a train level. There was one where you actually get to roam around the city, and then there was another one where you're on a ship. And I would just
Yeah,
play
man.
those nonstop over and over again.
That game was so good, bro. Because like once you get
Yeah.
like to like the middle of it, you get your own ship, you get your own island, and like
Yeah.
it's like it makes you feel like a pirate. You know what I mean? Like or
Yeah.
whatever you were. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Jesse says he just got home, no power. No worries, man. Whenever if we're still on and you want to hop in, just feel free to hop in, man. But yeah, yeah, and that's one of those games I remember at that time. I really wanted to buy Skies of Arcadia, but I never did, and I was like kind of bummed out. That's like one of the JRPGs I never got to play at that time. Right, I didn't get to play it later. Even
It
when it came
still
out on
holds up.
GameCube, I didn't play it. Yeah, like the little bit I was playing of it, before the Messenger took my attention, it was good, and I enjoyed it. But yeah, how about 64 games?
64. Ooh, it was. I think. Didn't we already talk about that?
Yeah, we talked about it in some.
Oh, I meant like your whole lineup of games that you owned.
Oh, the ones that I owned.
Yeah.
Oh, it was. So I had the Mario, Zeldas,
Yeah.
Star Foxes, and stuff like that. But then there was also a Star Wars podcast or a
Pod Racer? Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
there was that. GoldenEye. And that's when I started playing rated M games. That was a Turok.
Yeah, remember Turok.
Like
yeah.
Mhm.
like Turok, and then I think it was like I forgot there was another third person and first person. The third person was what was it called? It was like where you kill big bugs. It was what is it, like Jet Force Gemini or something like that? I don't know if you ever heard about that. I think that's what it was called.
You mean Earth Defense Force?
No, it was like Jet Force Gemini. I'm gonna double check real quick.
Mm.
But it was that, and I can't remember the other FPS. Yeah, it was called Jet Force Gemini. If you Google it, like you'll see.
Yeah.
And that one, I remember playing a lot of that one. But and then it was I think it was like Quake
Oh,
or
okay.
something.
I remember
Okay.
this one, Jet Force Gemini.
Yeah,
I probably
yeah, I
should.
love that game, dude.
It was like think of a bug's life, but you're
With
killing
guns.
bugs. 'Cause you're the
With
size
guns.
with guns. 'Cause you're the size of bugs.
I don't know if I could think of that, but yeah. That would be interesting. Let's see. So, what was your lineup of games, Viet?
So like me and my like cousins, like a lot of us had an N64, so we would buy, like we would make sure no one had duplicates of games, and then we would just rotate. We would share and trade. But I remember having Pokemon Snap, Banjo Kazooie, Mario 64, Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
GoldenEye was like the game that everyone played, and then Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Remember that? And I remember destroying my N64 controller because of Bomberman 64.
Bomberman 64
Yeah,
too.
There was
remember
there was
playing
a there was a secret thing you had to do with your joystick that you had to like turn it like a certain speed or certain rotations, and it unlocked like a special thing with the game.
Those
couldn't
things
remember
broke
exactly what
so
it was,
easy too,
but
man. Those
Yeah, I
joysticks
broke
suck.
so many controllers because of that game.
Nothing ever changes, Nintendo. Stay golden. Like
So for me, it was let's see. I had Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. I'm counting some of the games that my brother had too because we shared them. But Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, 007, GoldenEye, Quake 64, Turok 2. I never owned Turok 1, but I had Turok 2. What was it? It was another 007 game that came out. Man, I can't remember the name of it. I just remember it was in a blue cartridge. I don't know why the name escapes me.
that's going too far back for me, bro.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like going back like 20 something years.
yeah. I'm trying to
dude.
remember
Like-
what it is. Ah, man, that's it's gonna kill me now.
The world is not enough.
Yes, the world is not
That's what it
enough.
was.
That's what it
I
was.
just looked at it. It's on eBay.
Yeah.
Apparently it's going for a lot.
Oh man,
Yeah,
I don't
all
even know
those
where that
games,
console,
too.
or I don't even know where that game is. But I had that, and then I don't know if I'm missing anything. But as far as games I rented, I had rented Mario Party games, of course, Paper Mario. Actually, I think that was it. Because around there, like outside of like the Zelda games, that's when I stopped using my 64 a lot. And the game I started, or the console I started using the most was the PlayStation. And surprisingly, like I didn't really get into like all of the PlayStation until like later on. So fun fact, like I never liked JRPGs. Remember trying Final Fantasy 7 in the beginning? I was like, oh, this game is whack. Like, why can't I attack these guys? Like, why do I have to, go through these commands? Fast forward later, a friend of mine's, he's like, hey, you gotta try out this cool game. It's really cool. I was like, what's the name of it? He's like, it's Breath of Fire 4. So he let me borrow it. And I started playing Breath of Fire 4, and I was like, oh man, this game's amazing. Like, it's this like anime style, because I got really big into anime at that time. I was like, yeah, this is cool. And then the next game he buys, he's like, hey, you gotta try this. I just beat this game. I said, what game is it? He's like, it's Final Fantasy 7. I was like, oh man, no, I played that already. I think that's stupid. He's like, no, you gotta really give it a try. It's cool. So then I started playing it, and sure enough, I fell in love with it. And that was like, after that, it was basically all JRPGs after that. I got Legend of the Dragoon, Final Fantasy 8, Final Fantasy 9. What else? Lunar 2, which I loved Lunar 2. I'm trying to think of what other RPGs I played. There's so much that I can't even remember.
Right.
But yeah. What about you? Like, what games did you have on PlayStation?
I never owned a PlayStation.
Oh, you never did? Oh, okay.
Never. Yeah. So I didn't have a PlayStation until the next era. The first console I got was
Yeah.
the PS2.
Yeah.
How about that?
So-
The kids are fighting.
No worries. Yeah, we can't hear it on this end, so no worries. Yeah. Oh, Jesse says
Right.
a pole hit him, or a pole hit, so he has power out. That's fine. Like, no worries, man.
So I think are we moving on to the next generation?
Oh, real quick. Did you have a PlayStation or no? Via.
No, I never had a PlayStation.
Okay.
So like in my family, I was like the Nintendo kid,
Okay.
and my cousin was like the Sony kid, because so he had the
Gotcha.
PlayStation, the PS2, the PS3, and stuff like that.
So I'm curious. Did you guys actually get to play Legend of Dragoon like in the future, or you still
I
haven't
never
played it?
played that. I never played that game. No, that was
I-
my gaming
I
regret,
have
man.
played it. I have played it mainly because my cousin had it. So when we go to his house, I would play it. I did never
Yeah.
beat it, obviously, because I didn't own it.
I
but
wanted
played
to play
it a
that
little
game
bit.
for like 20 years. Like I still think about it sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Games
I
that
wanna play
it's an amazing like RPG. Like the music is still in my head too to this day. A lot of the old music, gaming music, goes in my head. Hence, like when I do the podcast, previously I had edited the intro and the outro to be like just random game songs, which I don't know. We'll see if I still edit the podcast after we record to add that, because I feel like that's been like a symbol of our opening and endings. But we'll see. But yeah, like it's an amazing game. Highly recommend it. I wish they would remake it. I think it would be due for a remake for sure. But I feel like it's never going to be remade, unfortunately. But yeah, let's move on to the next generation. So next generation being PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube. I had to think for a second. So yeah, like for me, it was the PS2 I had first, and then later on, I got the GameCube and Xbox. What about you guys? Did you guys have all three consoles, or just two?
First time I had all three.
Okay.
Like pretty close to like release too.
Oh,
Like
nice.
and that was the first time I got a console for Christmas. I actually got the GameCube for Christmas.
Oh, nice.
And I was upset because like my brother was being like a little a-hole. I was telling me like he knew about how bad I wanted one. He's like, our parents aren't gonna get it for you and stuff. So I like started crying and stuff. You know what I mean? Like on Christmas Eve because I really wanted it. Like, but yeah. So like that was the first time I had all three consoles, and that was actually the time where like I first got a PS2,
Yeah.
but as soon as I got the Xbox, that's when I became like an Xbox kid. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like getting
Yeah.
that Xbox really was like I went to that direction more, but I still play the PS2 for like JRPGs and stuff like that.
Gotcha. What about you, Viet?
On what?
For this generation, did you own all three or not?
I never owned a PS2, but I did get a. Let's see, I never got a 360. I did get an Xbox,
Oh, nice.
and I did eventually buy a PS3 after the whole hype died down, after they've gone through multiple revisions.
Yeah.
It would have been nice if I would have gotten an original PS3, so they would have that hardware backwards
Yeah.
compatibility. But yeah, I think the 360 was the only one that I never owned at launch in terms of home consoles.
So yeah, for me, like it's funny. So PS2, I don't remember if that was a Christmas thing. I don't think so. I think my dad, like, he did some car work on somebody, and the guy paid with a PS2 and some games, so he was cool with it. And I remember him getting the PS2 and bringing it home, and then we got to play. I think the first game I played was Street Fighter EX2, I think it is EX2 or EX3, something like that. And it was an okay game. It was basically when Street Fighter was trying to do the Tekken thing, where they did it in 3D. And it kind of worked. It just wasn't the same. I mean, Street Fighter I think is best in 2D, not 3D. But it was an okay game. And then like the other games, I don't remember. They were just like the other games weren't that great at all. But you know, later on, eventually I started getting more JRPGs. I got Final Fantasy X, Kingdom Hearts 2.
Kingdom Hearts, bro, game
yeah.
changer right there, dude.
That
I remember that'll always hold a special place in my heart, dude.
Yeah, no,
That's
same here.
That's one of my regrets for not having a PS2.
You never have you ever played Kingdom Hearts?
Not until last year.
Oh,
my
wow.
God, you missed out a lot, dude.
Yeah. I bought the Kingdom Hearts all-in-one. So I
Super
was playing it on my-
convoluted.
Yeah.
Super
I was playing on my
convoluted, but it's
PS5.
still good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's no, I played it at launch, and the main thing was the main thing to me was the Final Fantasy characters. I could care less about Disney. It was the Final Fantasy characters that sold me on it. And till this day, like, I could still care less about the Disney properties in it. I just like the Final Fantasy characters being there.
I like the mix of them, like how
Yeah.
they mixed them. That's why I hated Kingdom Hearts 3. 'Cause
Yeah.
there was no Final Fantasy characters.
It's all
dude.
Disney,
Like,
yeah.
What are you doing, dude? Like that was the
Oh,
whole point
don't
of Kingdom
spoil it.
Hearts.
Oh, you haven't
I've
played
only
it?
played
Yeah.
1 and 2.
It's not really a spoiler.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Like
I've only
it was
played 1 and
just,
2. 3 is the next one, and then obviously
Oh.
since they tease 4,
it's like the gameplay is good, but like the story wise and like area wise, it just sucks.
Yeah, it was a step down. Have you played Chains of Memory yet?
I've actually never played that one.
No, it's funny. Like, people always like hate on me when I say this, but Chains of Memory is probably one of my favorites of the Kingdom Hearts games. Specifically, Chains of Memory. So my brother had owned Chains of Memory on the GBA, and you know,
Right.
it was fun to play because it was Kingdom Hearts on the go. And then they remade it with PS2 graphics in the PS2 at the like tail end of the PS2 era, with Chains of Memory, and then of course they voiced the cutscenes and things like that. And I like it because it's basically the combat's the same, but you have cards. So with these cards, they'll have different numbers, and as you attack, like you'll see like you'll attack and your card number will show out. It could be like number 8, but if the enemy attacks and their number is like 9, then basically it breaks your card, and you can't use that card again in the next round. If you go to reload your cards, that card is no longer there. So it brought a lot of strategy because you had to know when to attack and when not to. There was a way to break the enemy's cards. Like if you had a 0 card, the 0 would break any number, but the 0 could also be broken by any number. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. You could combine the cards and do special moves. There's a bunch of stuff like that. And I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. The music was great. You pretty much revisit the worlds of Kingdom Hearts 1, but then they added a few new worlds as well. And
Okay.
yeah, I highly recommend it. Like, to me, it's still one of my favorite games. I can still go back to it and I enjoy it. Man, I might play that tomorrow now. But yeah,
I know the was it the Kingdom Hearts All-in-One? They cut out like you can only play what 1, 2, and 3,
No, you can
and
play
then all the in between. Can you play the other
Yeah.
games? Because I thought they like just added it in as in just cutscenes and videos. Because
No, so Chains of
No?
Memory is a
Okay.
full game in there, and then Birth by
Okay.
Sleep is also a full game in there.
okay, and it
Uh,
might be the other stuff like the 365 by 2 days or
Yeah,
something.
that's there, which is
Like-
a good game too. Like I own that on the DS. I actually bought it from my brother, and that one's a really good game. I highly recommend that one. If you can get the cartridge, it's just one of those things. Like the DS has a thing that like I don't recommend emulating the DS because it's the dual screen is really hard to like emulate. But yeah, that one's really good. The other one, the Recoded, I have that one. It's all right. Like it's not that great, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Chains of Memory is highly recommended, and Birth by Sleep is really good. Birth by Sleep is basically the Phantom Menace, what's it called, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. Like it's literally those three movies put together. How the story is. But yeah, highly recommend those for sure. But yeah. So had Kingdom Hearts 2, Chains of Memory, Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 3. What else?
Yeah, the only Metal Gear Solid game I played was the GameCube remake of the first one.
That's funny because that's the only one I haven't played. Yeah,
I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
It's good. It's remade in the PS2 engine or in the PS2 Metal Gear Solid 2 engine. And I really wanted to play that. I remember I wanted to get that game so bad, but I don't know why I didn't get it. I forgot. But yeah, like I had quite a few PS2 games. Final Fantasy 12 was one of them. Oh, I know why I stopped buying PS2 games because I got hooked on Final Fantasy 11, which was an MMO. I bought it for my PS2. It came with the hard drive that you can install to the back of the PS2. And oh man, that was like the end of my life, dude. Like I got hooked on it. And I was like, what is this thing? I had bought this wireless adapter for my PS2 so I can get, wireless internet. And dude, like it was game over. I made my account, played it, and that's it. Like I was like, I remember turning on the game and there was just so many people I was playing with. I was like, no way, like this guy's real and this guy's real and this guy's real. Like they're not NPCs. Like whoa, like mind blown as my first MMO. I mean, I guess if RuneScape counts in it, then it's technically not my first MMO. But yeah, that was one of the reasons I stopped buying PS2 games because I had that, and I remember they tried to get me off of it with Battlefield 2, and I played Battlefield 2 for a little bit. I was like, oh yeah, it's cool, and then I was like, nah, let me go back to Final Fantasy 11, and that was it, man. That kind of almost ruined my whole gaming career. Hey, what's up, David? Thanks for joining in. But yeah, that's so far PS2. What about GameCube?
GameCube, man. Definitely. I have a lot of GameCube games. I still have all my GameCube games. Like that was like all the Metroid Primes, Twilight Princess, and Wind Waker.
Yeah.
Man, I was so mad about Wind Waker, dude, because I remember like I used to read what was it called, GamePro, when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I used to like stuff in my backpack and take it to school and read it on the bus and stuff. and like I remember the original preview for Zelda was like pretty much what Twilight Princess looks like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and then they changed it to like this cartoony style, and I was so mad because I hated that style, dude. I did not like the graphics for it, but it ended up being one of my favorite Zelda games. Like, yeah, like I love it now. Like now it's like Ocarina of Time and probably like Wind Waker are like my top Zelda games. And yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, I never actually played a Fire Emblem when it was on the GameCube.
Yeah.
Like, I've never played any of those.
You gotta play.
I have my whole. Yeah, I have to check those. I never played any of the GameCube ones, but I do have to check them out.
Those are probably my favorite Fire Emblem games, honestly.
The GameCube ones.
Yeah. I would say the Wii one is my favorite, and the GameCube one is my second favorite.
Right.
Well, I lie. The 3DS one, Shadows of Valentia is my favorite, but then those are the number 2 and number 3.
Yeah, I have to check them out. I haven't played a lot of the older ones, so
yeah.
And I can't even remember GameCube, man. It's been so long. I remember I played this fighting game, the only fighting game that I enjoy called Bloody Roar.
Oh yeah,
Where,
Ooh,
like,
yeah.
yeah,
Love that one.
that one was like that was fun. That was like one of my first fighting games too. Like, cause I hate fighting games, but I enjoyed that one because you could transform into like an animal or whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it was a cool mechanic.
No,
But
definitely.
but yeah,
I was the
yeah,
king of that game.
yeah.
Out of all the fighting games that I could beat my cousins in and friends in,
It
that was the
was
one
that
game
one.
I could. All the other ones, no.
So
Yeah, man.
yeah, for me, well, yeah, Via, you had GameCube, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the purple one.
Yeah.
Not the black
What
one.
games did you have on there?
I had the Sonic Battle 2,
Okay.
but I did have Bloody Roar. I did buy Bloody Roar. I had Super Smash, Twilight Princess, and Wind Waker. Oddly enough, I never beat the games when I owned them. I only just recently played them again and finally beat them. And then I also had Beautiful Joe
Oh
Oh, that's a
yeah,
nice game.
and
I remember that game, dude. That game
Tales
was
of
badass.
Symphonia and
Oh, Tales of
Fantasy
Symphonia. How
Star.
did I forget about that,
Yeah.
dude? I love that game, dude.
What was the last game?
Uh, oh my God, I literally just said it. Now I can't even remember what I just said.
Fantasy Star.
Fantasy Star, yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Fantasy Star Online
Oh,
is what it
Luigi's
was.
Mansion and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness said David.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness actually played at my cousin's house, so I never owned that one. So yeah, my lineup. All right, time to flex that lineup. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, my lineup was I had Wind Waker, Resident Evil 0, and then I had Resident Evil 1 remake, of course. Twilight Princess, I got, of course, at when it eventually came out. Metroid Prime 2. Uh, oh man, now I'm starting to forget games too.
Yeah,
Trying to think,
man.
like, what else?
This podcast has been like a memory like
Memory lane,
exercise.
yeah.
Nice little refresh.
It's
Like, dude,
I
like,
had Smash Bros Melee. Oh man, no, why can't I
Smash
remember?
Bros, dude, the
Yeah.
best one made.
Yeah.
Melee.
And man, that might have been it. Like I feel like Mega Man Battle Network Transmission or Network Transmission. No, yeah, Mega Man Battle Network Transmission, I believe is the name of it. Basically, it was you used the Mega Man Battle Network characters, but it was played like old school to the Mega Man. So it's kind of like a blend of both, which is an amazing game. I like it. I enjoyed it. And Naruto is it Clash of Ninja? Yeah, Clash of Ninja 1 and Clash of Ninja 2 as well. And I think that was it for GameCube. And then I also had the Game Boy Player, so then that's how I was able to play my Game Boy Advance games on there as well.
Okay.
Because Golden Sun, I played that all on my GameCube using the Game Boy Player. Had that on the TV.
Oh, I love the Game Boy Player, bro. What happened to gaming, dude?
Yeah,
I
it's
feel like
like
it was much better back in the day, dude.
it was. I mean, it was more in my opinion, at least, more innovative, right? Like I think nowadays it's all about power, right? Graphics and so forth. Where back then, like you were trying to entice people to go to your console in different ways. Game Boy Player was just an amazing thing. Like it was the reverse Turbo Graphics, right? Instead of having to buy like two separate consoles, use an attachment to your home console so you can play the portable games on your home console.
Right.
Yeah, so that was that. Let's see, David says, I rented Super Smash Bros. Melee from Blockbuster and never returned it. See, I was never one of those.
Yeah.
Like, I always had to return it because I rented so many games from Blockbuster. So I always had to return my games, but the 64 era for sure was when I went crazy renting games. In the GameCube era, unfortunately, I didn't rent that many games at all. I can't even think of one game I rented in the GameCube era. And part of that is Final Fantasy 11 to blame. I blame Square Enix for getting me into their games. It's all their fault. So yeah, but yeah, there was that, and then
Yeah, I think GameCube could have done better if Nintendo
Yeah.
didn't shoot themselves in the foot with using the mini disc.
yeah. Well, I mean, how did I forget this? Resident Evil
Because the
4 was another
GameCube-
game I had.
The GameCube was more powerful than the PS2.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Graphically, it was more powerful. But they shot themselves in the foot by
Yeah.
using a media format that didn't hold as much data. So
Yeah.
developers were kind of like, oh, we have all this power, but we can't utilize it all.
I don't know why they would do that, dude. That's crazy. Leave it to Nintendo, dude.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think they didn't want to pay because correct me if I'm wrong. I thought Sony had the rights to DVD as well, so Sony would get a portion of the, of every DVD they sold. I might be wrong. It might have been Philips that owned the DVD rights. I don't remember.
No, because GameCube had a partnership with was it Panasonic? Because
Yeah.
Panasonic in Japan, they came out with a Panasonic GameCube that played
Yeah.
DVDs.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, so it might have been Panasonic that owned the rights to DVD. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it's funny because I had this conversation today too with somebody else about the GameCube and how much more powerful it was, and I always give the example of Resident Evil 4. I'll never forget that my brother's friend came to the house, and he was playing Resident Evil 4 on the PS2, and I was like, oh man, this game looks ugly, like. And the TV he was using was my living room TV, which was definitely way better than the TV I had in my room. And I remember looking at it, I was like, wow, it does not look like that at the GameCube at all. And then if you watch comparison videos now, you can see that the GameCube version, for example, there's like a room where there's puddles in it. You can see the puddle effects and the water, where the PS2 version has nothing in it. There's no water or anything in that same area. And where there are puddles there are no puddle effects when you're walking, because I guess the PS2 was just not strong enough to do that, where the GameCube could. So yeah, it is interesting. Like the GameCube could have been it was the most powerful console at the time, and it failed. And some part of me makes me wonder if that's why Nintendo did the opposite with the Wii. Was like, you know what? Instead of focusing on power, let's focus back on innovation with other ways to play the game. But who knows? But yeah, and then going to Xbox. What Xbox games did you own, Mike?
So there was a game called Crimson Sky, and
Oh,
it
I
was
remember
like
that.
arcade, like flight sim kind of deal. It was super good. I was on that for a long time, and that was like my first multiplayer game that I played with other people too.
Yeah.
Because you could have like dogfights and stuff, and it was like a old school kind of game. I don't know why they didn't continue with the series, because like I
Yeah.
feel like it did really good, but they just never made another Crimson Skies.
Yeah.
And the big one that like got me into first person shooters was Halo. Like honestly, I don't really remember anything else on Xbox, because I was just on Halo 24/7, dude. Like with all my friends and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like it was just like Halo 1, Halo 2 is pretty much just that's all you needed for Xbox. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like there wasn't really anything else you needed.
Yeah, I remember going to the midnight release for Halo at my local GameStop that was in a mall, and I waited in line, and there was like 50 people waiting in line to get it, and then I beat it in like 2 days.
Yep.
Skip school one day just because it was just so I could play it and beat it.
Yeah, for me, it's funny with Xbox. So I did not like my Xbox, like a lot of other people. The games that I had were really just Star Wars Obi-Wan and KOTOR. And those were
Yeah.
really the,
KOTOR, I forgot about
Yeah.
Knights of the
Yeah,
Republic, yeah.
yeah. And then
then,
I had Shenmue 2 also. I had that on there. But yeah, after that, like, I just didn't care for it. Like my dad mainly used it, and he mainly had first-person shooter games. He had like Full Spectrum Warrior, which I did play some of that, which was a pretty cool tactical RPG. It's a tactical RPG, but it's a like military style, which is pretty interesting. Like if you ever look up gameplay, look it up. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, that one was pretty cool. But other than that, like I didn't have Halo. I played Halo at my friend's house. But at that time, I just did not care for first-person shooters, and that was kind of my way of like, eh. Now every time people were like on hype on Halo, I'm like, yeah, Halo's cool, but Final Fantasy 11's better, because I was so stuck on Final Fantasy 11 that I just didn't play any other game. But yeah, that was my view of the Xbox. David says I had the first Xbox, but I didn't play it much. I don't remember any games. Yeah, and that's how it was. Like I didn't play it much. Like outside of Shenmue, KOTOR.
How did you forget Fable?
Huh?
Oh, Fable, yeah.
Fable was on the Xbox.
Yeah, I didn't get Fable neither.
I was
I
busy
just didn't
with
care.
I was busy with Halo, dude, but I still
Yeah.
played Fable. It was good.
To be Fable, I was like, I didn't like at that point. Like, I was getting to like super mega like weeb territory where I was like, nah, like I don't care about like Western RPGs or Western anything, and I was just like, yeah, Xbox is Microsoft. I don't need that stuff. Yeah, and so that was that era of me. Like, you give me something with samurais, I'm in it. You give me something with no samurais, there's no Japanese or anything in it, like I don't care. Like, all you had to do is tell me it's from Japan. That's it. But yeah, and then that was that era, and then it's funny, like that era for me is the era where I played the least amount of games because of Final Fantasy 11 having me hooked. And I think a lot of people were hooked on different things. So that in that era they were really trying to hook you at that one game. MMOs were getting popular. You had EverQuest, WoW came
World of
out in the same
Warcraft,
area. Yeah. Then multiplayer was another hype thing. Again, like Battlefield 2 was online, available on PS2. SOCOM. Oh, I forgot. I had SOCOM also on PS2, which is funny. I did play that, and that is a shooter. But yeah, like SOCOM was on there. That was online. I remember clans being formed for that, to do that. Like, that era was very interesting, but I feel like that's where, in my opinion, like gaming creativity started being iffy. Because then when you go into the next era, which is now considered retro gaming, the PS3, the Wii, and the 360, this, in my opinion, was the worst console generation ever for me.
You think it was the worst?
I think it was the worst. And hear me out. Here's why. I feel like in that console generation, like, is where I feel a lot of creativity was just done. Like, this is where clones started popping up nonstop, right? Like, Call of Duty got successful, and bam, there's like a million other first-person shooters that try to emulate that. And that was the issue of that era, was just like, it was everybody just trying to copy each other and do the same thing.
It kind of started in the era before, you know what I mean? Like, because like Halo became a very successful first-person shooter, and it's pretty much the first one that did it correctly on the console.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and then everyone started trying to make first-person shooters on the console.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, they mastered the control sticks, right?
Yeah.
Left and right thumbsticks, where most console games didn't. Like Metroid Prime, right? Even though it's a first-person shooter, they didn't let you use the C stick to aim. Like, you had to do all these other buttons. But yeah, I think once they did that, like Battlefield 2 also came to console later on, which was a PC game, and then that also had the same thing with twin stick shooters. SOCOM, which was already on there, used the second stick as a aiming already.
Yeah, but isn't SOCOM third?
So yeah, it's third person though. Yeah, it's not first person.
Yeah.
But I mean, first person, third person, they're still very similar.
It's different, bro.
Perspective. It's different perspective, but like it's still shooting mechanics. But yeah, like that generation was considered retro. Like in that one, I would say I played a lot of my Wii. And it's funny because a lot of the games on my Wii were from Virtual Console, because that's when I started buying a lot of older games on Virtual Console. And then, I got hooked. I got Metroid Prime 3. But, like, I think it was mainly where I got stuck with Brawl, Smash Bros. Brawl, and Radiant Dawn, right? And that was really it. And then after that, I was like, Like, I just stopped kind of, like, caring. Like, it was more like I felt like every game that was coming out was just not impressive at that point. When it came to PS3, Dark Souls, I did really enjoy. And there was a lot of RPGs, but I felt like the RPGs weren't as good. Yeah, go ahead.
So I feel like that generation is where people started finding like their like identity, because it started gaming actually started taking wasn't really underground anymore by that point. You know what I mean? It started taking like the
it did become mainstream. Yeah.
So like it did ruin a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? Because that's when you started getting like what's it called, like the microtransactions and like stuff like that,
DLC.
But I feel like a lot of good stuff happened in that generation too, because of the graphics and everything they were able to do more with games.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I think the stuff that I really got excited for in that generation was more of the behind the scenes stuff, right? Like, I remember I got the Wii first. Actually, I think I got the Wii and the 360 on the same day, but I played the Wii first. And the reason I got the 360 was actually because they had more JRPGs than PS3 had at the time. So that's why I went with that. But I remember, like, turning on the Wii and like you go into the main menu. I was like, oh wow, this is innovative. There's like these boxes here. It's no longer like
Yeah.
you put in the game, you turn it on, and it goes straight to the game.
And that's it.
Yeah, you had a menu here, and I was like, oh cool. There's like a weather channel. I can go there and see what the weather's like. Even though I didn't care, it was there.
Yeah, you can still do it.
Exactly. Like, that was cool. That was there. You had the Me channel, which I would play around all the time, and then of course you had the eShop there, and like this was all like innovative experiences. Then of course Xbox had the Microsoft Store, and then PlayStation had the PlayStation Store. But
So
yeah.
you want to know a fun fact about those menus? Is who like pioneered that like for games?
Oh,
Is actually it's Microsoft. Because Halo 2, they used Halo 2's menu system, and that's how they got like the slide stuff.
for you mean
Did
like
not know that.
for the blades?
But yeah,
Yeah.
for the menu, it was like for a menu before a game.
Oh, I gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Halo 2 like pioneered that.
Hmm. Yeah, I did not know that. Yeah, I know like
crazy.
Microsoft came out with the blades and then they changed
Yeah.
their UI because of Nintendo's and PlayStation's UI being a little bit more user friendly. And then that's when they
Yeah.
changed it to the other one where you can go up and down and you had things more clear. Because I remember I
Like
hated
one
blades.
they have now, pretty much.
Yeah. I remember I hated the blades thing because it was like all like that, like lines. I was like, man, this is like
Yeah,
dumb.
you just swear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah, I remember I was mad when they changed it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? 'Cause I like the blades. But Halo 3 came on the 360, dude. That
Yeah.
game was like,
That was
I
fun.
probably have like over 5,000 hours in Halo 3,
Yeah.
like between multiple accounts, because I always grinded out 50s. Like, so.
Yeah. So it's also funny. This generation was the generation when I started playing more handheld consoles. So I played my DS a lot more than my actual home consoles. But it's because they had a lot more JRPGs, right? So like, I was going ahead
Yeah.
playing a lot of those games and stuff like that. And then Mario 64 DS came out, so I was like, oh, Mario 64 again. Let's do
JRPGs
it.
kind of died with that generation.
Yep.
Like,
That was the other
yeah.
reason why I was sad. It was like they got a resurgence, like in PS4 era, right?
Yeah.
But like, yeah, they died. Microsoft tried to hold on to it with Star Ocean, Lost Odyssey, which is an amazing game, and Infinite Undiscovery. But like after that, it was like nobody wanted JRPGs anymore, which was sad.
Not the turn-based. No one wants the turn-based ones anymore. Now
Yeah.
everything's like action RPG,
Yeah.
like a JRPG or whatever.
But then Persona 5 comes out, and everybody wants turn-based again.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
because
like-
you have to do it right. There's like a fine line, you know what I mean, like between doing it right and wrong. And if someone does it wrong and fails, and then everyone's scared to do it again, because
Yeah.
nowadays, like, to make a game costs way more money than it did
Yeah.
20 years ago, and manpower. Like, it's crazy. Like, so the GTA 6 leaks,
Yeah.
like, people are
Oh,
saying
man.
how terrible the game looks, and it's like, bro, it's not even
Yeah, it's not
pre-alpha,
even
dude.
done,
Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it's literally like 2 to 3 years out, and people are like, oh, that game looks so bad, blah blah blah, because all the developers started posting like their pre-alpha like gameplay, so everyone
Yeah.
can see how games work. And I'm like, how do you play games and not have the slightest idea about how like a game works?
It's
You
a
know what I
dev
mean?
kit.
Like,
They're
Yeah.
using
Yeah.
like assets from previous games to make a new game and iron out the details.
it blows
not-
my mind, dude.
Yeah, that's ignorance on some people's part. Like I don't get that neither. It's like why, especially something that's that early in development, like you can't blame them, right? It's nowhere near close. Like if this was like the official trailer or something like that, then yeah, I would understand. But at this point,
It's not even going to be
stupid.
announced for like another year, dude.
Yeah.
Like I guarantee.
It's ignorance. It's people who don't know about video game development, like what goes into it. They're complaining about that stuff. But
Nope.
I mean, yeah, it's weird. But yeah, in that generation, did you own all three consoles, Viet?
Not at the same time.
No? Okay.
No. Yeah, I had a PS3 and a Wii.
Okay.
I did not have a Wii U though.
Well, Wii U is technically the next generation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which is
So,
not
yeah.
considered retro,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we won't be talking
Yeah.
about that.
I can't
Um,
honestly I can't remember much of what I owned on the Wii. Like I
Gotcha.
remember taking the Wii everywhere because everyone played Wii Sports.
The Wii
Like,
and
that's-
PS3 were the weakest consoles of that generation to me.
Say it again.
Like the Wii and the PS3 were definitely weak that generation.
Yeah.
For me, there wasn't really a lot of games I can think of that I was like hooked on those consoles.
Yeah.
I mean,
See,
for me the only Like it
going.
was just me rebuying Twilight Princess and Wind Waker again, so I
Right.
can play with it. Because I can play with it using motion controls. That's the only thing I can remember with the Wii.
I think for me, like the Wii and the PS3 is actually probably some of my favorite consoles of the generation. Not even like I really give it to the Wii, mainly because their first party lineup, like Nintendo's first party lineup never disappoints, and that's why like where PlayStation had
They
some
tried
good
to
stuff.
be too gimmicky, man.
Yeah.
Like I hated that, dude. Like
Well,
I just want to sit down and play a game.
Well, I mean, every game outside of like Mario Galaxy, right? I played with the controller because I could. But no, I agree. Like or in Metroid Prime 3, I couldn't play with a controller. But like, I agree. Like that was the biggest issue with the controller. And later on down in the life cycle, like I stopped playing it. But I still like go back to some of those games. I'll go and play a lot of the older games that I have for Wii. Because like Path or Radiant Dawn, because they still hold up to today. Where a lot of like my PlayStation 360 games I really don't want to touch anymore. I'm just kind of over it. But
Right.
but yeah, like in this era, like to me it was just like outside of like party chat and stuff like that. Like I didn't really care about anything else. I played like Black Ops 2. I started playing more first person shooters, but that's because that's really what there only was. There wasn't that much of anything else at that time. In my opinion, at least. I mean, there was other games out there like Dragon's Dogma and Dark Souls and things like that, but they just
Well, they
weren't.
had Elder Scrolls and Fallout 3, like you
None
know
of-
what I
I'm
mean?
not-
Like,
So I've tried 9 million times, right? Maybe it might be 9 billion actually, but I've tried so hard to get into Bethesda games and I cannot. I don't know what it is. Like,
really?
yeah,
Man,
I've
I
tried.
put so many hours in those games. Dude.
I couldn't get into Elder Scrolls. Like, people were all so
Yeah.
hyped about Skyrim. I don't know.
So with those kind of games, you kind of have to like role play in your head a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the story's like it's like a loose story, and you
Yeah.
pretty much it's kind of like playing a game of D&D.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Well,
you have to like
Okay.
It,
role play. You know what I mean?
yeah, and it's not the story. It's just I hate it. Okay, I hate inventory management in games, and then
Love it.
I hated I hate like the combat.
You
of
were a
it.
hoarder.
Yeah, that's what I do. Like if I see something, I have to pick it up, right? And that's the thing with me. It's like in every game, like Dragon's Dogma, which I do enjoy, but the combat is amazing. But my biggest issue with that is again inventory management. Everything I see, I gotta pick it up, and then I was like, oh, your weight's too high. You can't run no more. You can't jump. I'm like, what? This is stupid. Like
It's
I'm
realistic, man.
I don't play games for it to be realistic, man. Like I don't complain that like Mario's unrealistic. Like look at him, like he's jumping like 20 feet in the air with flips and stuff like that. Nah, but anyways, it's like that stuff, and that's why I don't know. It's just something about Bethesda games. I tried like a couple months ago to try Skyrim again, and I can't. Like I don't know.
It's harder now. It doesn't hold up as well. You have to like mod.
Yeah.
Like there's a few mods that make it play better nowadays, but
Yeah.
it's the original doesn't hold up as well.
Yeah.
I was playing Fallout 3 like on my Steam Deck, and like honestly, like I stopped playing like 10 hours in. So I'm like, man, some of the
not
mechanics it just feel dated, dude. Like,
Yeah. But it's like if somebody gave me a copy of like Skyrim and a copy of like Metroid Prime, like I will pick Metroid Prime over like Skyrim.
that's a
Because to
tough
me it's
choice, man.
it's more fun. It might be a shorter game, right? But I have more fun with that game. But yeah, and that era was a weird era for me. Like it was awkward. Now there were some good like highlights out of that era, right? Like Dead Space, right? Again, I mentioned like Dark Souls and Demon Souls. I've already mentioned that like a million times. Halo Reach came out. ODST, all the Halo games in that era were good.
Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
Um,
you gotta think too. Halo
Mass Effect.
3 put competitive gaming on the map. If it wasn't for Halo 3, competitive gaming wouldn't be where it's at.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, I don't know because I think League of Legends was already out by then, and that was already being
No.
competitive. No,
Halo 3 came out in 2007.
when did League come out?
I believe it was later. I don't know the year, but because
Yeah.
like Halo 3 is what they used to call it MLG at the time.
Yeah, I remember
And it was
MLG.
like-
Yeah,
Yeah, because I went to a few of the events in Orlando, and it was like Halo 3, World of Warcraft, and I forgot what other game they had there. Eventually, they started doing a little bit of Call of Duty too towards like the end of MLG.
Yeah.
But it was pretty much like all Halo, because I remember they had a T squared on the Dr. Pepper cans and everything too. Like it was getting big.
Yeah. David says he loves Skyrim and missed a lot of school for it. Yeah, that was me with Final Fantasy 11 back in the days. Unfortunately, that game got me so hooked that I would keep my surround sound on, and I would shut off my TV, but my PS2 was still running. And then if like a Notorious Monster, which were like these rare monsters that would pop like once a day or once a week, if one of those would pop, they had a command where you would do like /party. I think it was like party noise, and it'll make a random like siren noise. And somebody would do that. My surround sound, of course, would go off, and I would wake up right away, turn on my TV, and get ready because I was a tank. So I just went in and I would kite the monster until like my whole link shell, which is pretty much a guild, would arrive, and then we'll start fighting the monster. And like some of these monsters would take a while. That could take an hour to 2 hours to defeat. You're fighting that same monster. You might have to kite them back and forth. There was like a bunch of mechanics in it. Man, that game was good. Miss that game, kind of, but not really. Yeah, I had good memories with it, but like, as an adult, I can't play that game no more. Yeah.
Right.
I can't go back to that. Not time sinking like that. Yeah. But that is all the time we have for today. We actually went a little bit over what we were planning to do, but I appreciate you both for staying in, and I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to go ahead, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and like and subscribe to us, and share the podcast, right? If you really enjoy this podcast, share it out there so others can hear it. We will be live going forward every Sunday at 7 p.m. Doing the podcast live, and then of course we do stream Tuesday through Friday, where Tuesdays are group stream. Yeah, what's up?
This week, depending on how Hurricane Ian goes,
that is true. We're
gonna try our best, but
as we're located in Florida, the hurricane has a chance for hitting us. So depending, we might or might not be on this week. We'll see what happens.
Keep it posted on social media, so make sure you follow on there.
Yep. So depending on what happens, we'll do that. But usually we stream Tuesday through Friday, where Tuesdays are group streaming day. Wednesday is me streaming. Thursday is Mike, and then Friday is Jesse. But we'll see what happens from there. But yeah, and if you're on Twitch, feel free to go ahead and follow. Don't forget to follow us. We are still trying to hit that 50 follower goal on Twitch and that 100 subscriber goal on YouTube. So we do really appreciate your support. We thank you, everybody, for joining us. Viet, where can they find you at?
You guys can find me on Twitch and YouTube and Twitter at FanXY. You guys might hear some of my kids in the background.
It's all good. All right. But yeah, once again, we thank you for coming in. Definitely stay tuned to watch more of us. My name is James. Thank you, Mike. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Random Encounter Podcast.
Peace.